Good afternoon. How is everyone doing? I am so happy to see all of you. I was telling our poets, I was doing my prayer dance, hoping that people would come in out of this wonderful weather, spring weather, into this poetry reading, and it happened. You all are here. Thank you for being here. This is our flagship event at JMU in celebrating the Centennial of Gwendolyn Brooks. It's appropriate that it's in the midst of National Poetry Month. And we thought, in order to honor the memory of this amazing poet who graced the 20th century, that we would have a poetry reading, as well as a poetry contest. And we have not only the winners of the contest here, but we also have here the daughter of Gwendolyn Brooks. And she's going to present these prizes to our two amazing young poets. I'm Joann Gavin. I direct the Furious Flower Poetry Center, and it has been my pleasure to have this center since 1999. And it was in 1999 that Gwendolyn Brooks came for the last time to James Madison University. She was doing a reading here as well as at the University of Virginia. And when she came over, even though we didn't have a dedicated center, we had the honors program. And so I just donned the honors program, the Furious Flower Poetry Center. And we got a plaque and we put it up. And it was though it was self-fulfilling prophecy, because we now have a designated Furious Flower Poetry Center, as well as a director, an assistant director, a communication specialist, a graduate, a student assistant, and we're still growing. And we have a lot of wonderful followers of Furious Flower. I want to take this opportunity to present to you one of our board members, and she's been busy at work. And usually we're so fortunate because we usually have at least one board member at each of our events. And Carter Douglas, would you stand up and let them recognize you? She did this amazing. She just insists that we have wonderful arrangements. She said, this is Furious Flower. We have to have an arrangement at each event. So this is her arrangement. It is my pleasure to also introduce to you a woman who has been a friend of mine since she was a very young woman. In fact, it's hard to believe that she's all grown up because when I met her, she was a teenager. And that was back in the 60s, late 60s. She is presently the president of Brooks Permissions. This is the organization that handles the literary legacy of Gwendolyn Brooks. For the last 29 years, she was also the producing artistic director of Chocolate Chips. And all along the way, she has done numerous jobs in terms of speaking and teaching in elementary schools and high schools in Chicago. She's lived in Chicago all of her life. She is the beautiful and only daughter of Gwendolyn Brooks. And Gwendolyn Brooks has a son as well, so just two children. And she represents the other side, the female side. I want you to give a grand welcome to the daughter of Gwendolyn Brooks, Miss Nora Brooks Blakey.
I see what she meant. There's a lot more people than when I last turned around. So, so thank you so much. I appreciate that warm welcome. And but I'm going to be very conscious because I do not want Lauren to beat the mess out of me if I go over the time she told me I had. So I thought that I just wanted to do two things today. One, to do something that I call three-way mirror that I wrote about my mother, to give you a little sense of who she was besides the serious poet. And the other is something that she said, and ooh, I didn't think about this. Can you grab right in my, sorry, in my purse, the book, Seasons. So, thank you. This is a book that Brooks Submissions just brought out this year, and it's called Seasons, a Gwendolyn Brooks Experience. And so in here are not only poems and excerpts from her work that we looked at as being representative of the themes of the different seasons. So sure, winter is cold, but it could also be connected to isolation. But it can also be connected to rebirth. Because that's when the little seeds are starting to do their thing underground. And so we have family pictures, people that remembered memories of people from mentees, peers, everything like that, and absolutely fabulously beautiful illustrations by the award-winning artist Jan Spivey-Gilchrist. So, but what we're also very proud of is that Mama did a book in 1980 called Young Poets Primer. And it was tips allegedly for young writers, but it's really for anybody that ever thought of picking up a pen wherever you are in the process. So new, emerging, I've been doing this, but let me look at that piece about writer's block again. So there's a tip that I really like that I think really speaks to anybody that cares about writing. And that's very short, so when I get to it, you know it's very short. And so, but first, let me do this. What's it like having Gwendolyn Brooks for a mother is the often asked question. I don't know, I never had another mother to compare her to, is a semi-flip reply. And yet, even without an opportunity for comparison shopping, there are differences. Most people get to see their mothers as well as mothers. They may be peripherally aware of a career she has out there, but it doesn't really connect with their corner of reality. I got to see Mama in many different guises. Version 1, Mama as Mad Woman. Many people saw Gwendolyn Brooks as a shy, retiring, quiet sort of person. As her daughter, I knew the truth and will now expose it. Miss Brooks watched soap operas, yes she did, and usually didn't answer her phone while they were on. One time I called and she said, "All my children," and hung up. As I was growing up, my mother would dance through the house, hands high over her head, to the sounds of Errol Garner on television. She loved to play the piano and would beat out Duke Ellington songs like Mood, Indigo, or Solitude, while I draped myself over the piano vamp style and sang. This quiet person was the one who gossiped and giggled with me on the phone, often for 2 or 3 hours at a time, talking about everything from the cataclysmic to the comic. The phone was not her only avenue of communication, however. My mother was a clipaholic. She would cut clippings out of newspapers by the truckload. When I was a child, I used to find these clippings attached to my bedroom mirror. After I moved away from home, she would collect bundles of them that would lie in wait on the living room radiator until I came over. In later years, she started mailing me clippings from out-of-town newspapers while she was on the road. I finally had to face facts. If I took up residence on the moon, the next shuttle would contain clippings from my mother. So, Mama as midwife. Gwendolyn Brooks had always been interested in assisting in the birth and development of new writers. In the 60s, she was a focal point for most of the young black writers in Chicago and across the country. Our house became a regular meeting place and think tank. She thrived on the informal sessions she had on myriad college campuses, talking not only about literature, but also the world. Her mail was filled with the letters of people she touched. She was a firm believer in the phrase, "give till it hurts." For years, she went around the country giving grants to individual students, offering awards, and even creating contests at schools until she could no longer afford it. My father and I started calling her Our Lady of the Open Mouth because of the numerous times she got excited about an idea or a person and volunteered her funds. Most important of all, however, was her effect on children. Through the schools she visited and the Illinois Poet Laureate Awards, which she created, every year hundreds of poems poured in from elementary and high school students all over the state. She alone judged the poems and paid for the awards out of her own pocket. Annually, the winners got awards of $100 each, but she got an award too, the up-faced excitement of parents and children alike. Mama as mapper. More than anything else, though, my mother was a mapper. She delineated and defined the scenery of her now. Her words are a mere reflection of the aroundness. Her poetic people are still friends and acquaintances that command instant recognition. You say, "I know Big Bertha, Pepita, and Narissa." You say, "I feel for the near Johannesburg boy." You say, "I've been that crazy woman." You say, "Lincoln West is a friend of mine." Gwendolyn Brooks introduced and shared experiences. When she said the only sanity is a cup of tea, you recognized a truth. Little girl songs, the grayed in and grayness of the day-to-day, animals grazing, computers, the fact that we are each other's business, and the need to conduct our blooming in the noise and whip of the whirlwind. These are all entrances to the lives of people you might otherwise never know. Gwendolyn, whether as manic parent, literary midwife, or life mapper, opened places and people, new doorways and mind paths. And after all, isn't that what a mother is supposed to do? Thank you. This is less than a minute, about 37 seconds, actually. It is from Young Poets Primer. It is tip number 30 in here, toward the back of the book. Poetry has a future. You may initiate new forms. You may create. You do not have to consider that everything has been done. You do not have to write sonnets, villanelles, heroic couplets, haiku, tanka, simply because centuries of poets have written such. Dare to invent something. Understand that somebody invented the sonnet. Understand the day before the sonnet was invented, there was no sonnet. Thank you.
Thank you all for coming. Oh, it is a so much better view of the room. we always have that nervousness. I joined Joann in my mind circling, oh my God, I hope somebody comes up. Thank you all for being here. We're very excited to celebrate Gwendolyn Brooks' legacy, to celebrate these beautiful writers who have won this award that we held in her honor. And it is my job, I'm Lauren Elaine, Assistant Director of the Poetry Center, to introduce the judge who will come tell you about these amazing poets. So Patricia Smith is the author of 7, is it still 7? Because there's like one every other week, 7 books of poetry. Most recently, Incendiary Art, which is incredible and is available for sale at the back of the room. She is also the other book, should have been Ginny Savannah, Blood Dazzler, Tea House of the Almighty. I'm not going to go through the whole list. There is a whole list. She's also been published in poetry, the Paris Review, the New York Times, Tri-Quarterly, Tin House, the Washington Post. That is also another list. Because poetry and publishing it in the tons and like in fantastic quality is not enough, she also edited an anthology of crime fiction that was an award-winning anthology as well, Staten Island Noir, which won the Robert L. Fish Award from the Mystery Writers of America. And she's also written a children's book, Jan and the Kings. So she's got a lot of cred. One reason we asked her to be our judge. But also, when we were talking, we wanted somebody who would somehow embody some of the qualities of Ms. Brooks. And we thought, Chicago, Brooks's hometown, home country of poetry, is also Patricia's. And in her work, we really get the grit, the glitz, the gore, the glory. Her poems are also a testament to the complexity and complication and resilience of African Americans in this country. Those poems are both loving and unflinching. And in this way, she is an heir of Gwendolyn Brooks as well. And so the best person, we thought, to select the winners of this prize in Brooks's name. So I ask you to please welcome the wonderful Patricia Smith.
Well, thank you, Lauren. Hi. Okay, so it's your school colors?
Yes.
I didn't know, but it's cool, right? Anyway, how's everybody doing? Good. Thank you very much. That was a wonderful introduction. I wanted to talk just briefly about Chicago because it had a lot to do with the way my mindset when I was judging this contest. My mother and father came up from the South. My father came up from Arkansas, my mother from Alabama during the Great Migration. And they really were confounded for a while. You move yourself from one perspective, one environment to another, and didn't really know how to raise a child there. They knew how to raise a child in the country, but not in the city. There was a whole other set of rules. So they kind of left me to my own devices a lot of sitting me in front of the television, a lot of keeping me away from, their way of introducing me to the world was to keep me away from it. So everything seemed to be designed to stifle whatever burgeoning voice I had. In school, we were expected to fail. I used to have a teacher who would come in and give us, I'm going to age myself now, mimeographed. Only a few people right here are because those are copies. And we used to have to crank copies out. Okay, forget y'all. And would pass out these sheets and then put his feet up on the desk and say, just fill out these sheets. And when my parents would say, well, why are they not getting any work? They said, well, this is one of those schools. You're on the west side of Chicago, and nobody on the west side achieves anything. So I realized that for that whole time, I was kind of looking to craft my own history. My mother was afraid. My mother was ashamed of being from the South, so she didn't talk about it. She didn't talk to me about it. So I go here, I have no voice. I go here, I have no history. My parents are concerned about crafting a life for themselves and saying, well, the city will take care of her. And I realized that what I was looking for was not just a voice, but a soundtrack to live to. And when I found Gwendolyn, I found that soundtrack. And it's the soundtrack of the West and South Side colored girl in the early 1960s. It's a voice that was familiar with the tenements that I lived in, familiar with the church that I went to, familiar with the streets that I walked. The streets were not lesser than any other streets. The streets were vibrant, the streets were alive, the streets held possibility, which is not what I was encountering or being told in my life. And so it was perfect to find someone who had found a language to give me what I had been looking for. And I think when I was judging this contest, and for weeks I was going with the two, I was going, because they were both so incredible. I think I was looking for a continuation of that soundtrack. I was looking for work that that recognized where we were and celebrated it, and basically said that there was absolutely nothing wrong with staying there, you know. And because Gwendolyn Brooks' name was affiliated with this award, I looked for an adventurous language. I looked for unexpected entry points into stories. I looked for stories that were told in ways that I'd never heard them before. And with both Clemence and Tiana, they're very, very different. Tiana has an amazing eye for making history come forward and grab you by the throat. And when I read Clemence's work, I was thinking about my own students who I can never get to write anything, and that they don't think poetry has anything to do with them. And he took the world that they walk through every day. I mean, the T-shirt poem, I didn't know what to do with that. You know, I just read it and said, okay, I don't know who this person. And here's my funny story. So I met him at AWP, this huge conference, and I'm signing books, and this very effervescent, wonderful person comes up and introduces. I had no idea that it was the same person until like 2 days ago. Because then I matched the last names and I went, you know, so whatever. So I know what I like. I know what I like. Tiana's work comes forward again and again. You know, we were in a contest together that she won. And I wasn't familiar, and I read her poem and I said, okay, I'm gonna see her over and over again. This voice cannot be suppressed. And sure enough, all of a sudden she was everywhere, and everyone recognizes what a unique talent she is. And if you don't buy her book, the doors will like hermetically seal, no one gets out. Her book is called Equilibrium. It's an absolutely exquisite, elegant volume. It's a beautifully done book. And I'm looking forward to seeing what the two of these people do, and I'm so invested in both of their lives and both of their writing careers, and I couldn't be prouder of the two of them. So you're in for a treat. We're going to have a wonderful time, and I suggest those of you who want to write, those of you who are looking forward to a career or life in writing, that you take time to talk to these guys, because I always say we're not doing anything you can't do. You know, you really just have to want it, and you have to believe in the power of language to move you from one place to another place in your head. And we try to do it all the time, and these two are extremely successful at it. And so, welcome to the program. Glad to be here, and so, so honored to be in your company. Okay.
I think on that note, we pay them now. So I'm going to have Nora Brooks-Blakely come forward and Dr. Gavin, and we will, we also wanted this to be a really great prize, right? Like, you know, you don't call it the Gwendolyn Brooks Centennial Poetry Prize and be like, here's $5. So our runner-up, Clemence Hurd, honorable mention, yes. Sorry, will receive a check for $1,000.
And before the camera.
I'm gonna get out of the way. And congratulations. And the winner of the Gwendolyn Brooks Centennial Poetry Prize, the wonderful Tiana Clark, who will receive a $2,000 check. And now for the reading portion. We will not stop for introductions. I think you should know these people pretty well by now. Clemence will lead us off, followed by Tiana, followed by Patricia Smith. Enjoy.
Hey y'all, how y'all doing? All right. So I have my wow. So when I first got the call from Lauren, I was in the car with my nephew driving him to football practice, and I kept saying wow. So when I finally got back to my grandmother's house, coming back home, right? I was going to tell the story, and my nephew said, he just kept saying wow, so it's something big, So I was like, yeah. So I'm just going to keep saying wow probably the entire night. But yeah, I mean, great to have y'all here. Great to see all these faces. I'm very excited to just be in something this wonderful, to be representing Gwendolyn Brooks, right? So this is huge to be able to read with Tiana, with Patricia. It's hard for me to say Patricia or to say Nora because I'm Southern, so I put a miss in front. But I'm gonna say it anyway tonight. I'm gonna be grown, right? All right, so I'm gonna start my timer. All right, and I'm just gonna jump right in, y'all. Let's see. The name of the first poem. Okay, we'll do that. Then I'll try some more stuff. Okay. The name of this first poem is called Throwing Shade. What can I say about this? I was writing this for another contest and about the moon, and I was like, okay, I can write a poem about the moon, so I wrote one about the moon. But then I started to think about how there's been no black foot on the moon, right? So I was like, okay, so I have to write about this. So I have a little epigraph. Anyone know A Tribe Called Quest? Yeah? Five Dog, Q-Tip? Okay, so I have an epigraph from their newest album, their last album, which is There Ain't a Space Program for Niggas. Yeah, we stuck here, nigga. A Tribe Called Quest. But here we go. All right. We Negroes didn't want to go to your white satellite anyway. Always putting on the same face, same way all Caucasian males who've taken off to the moon look alike. Psych. But on a more orbiting note, that place doesn't look cool enough for the likes of folks like us, not us. Too jive of a ride after carpooling from 27 cities to Cape Canaveral. You're not about to coop us up in the dark side. We're sharp enough and have slaved in the fields long enough to know where there's shade, there's code. How to disappear if we cloud our eyes and mouths. But we'd much rather be cool, rather beam our smiles and bulge our brown, rather chill by a brine pool called the Banana River with a few Latina mommies from Miami instead of shivering beside a pair of Marias on some chloric spear. Celestial has far too many syllables for our lingo. We'd have to name that dame Celeste. And don't none of our dogs go by Astro. That place looks crustier than the lips of old Craterface, denser than the stale poetry they used to force down our slang-brimming traps back in high school. Way back when cool was trading water and a woman went swimming in her man's tall t-shirt and 2 pieces of fried chicken was satisfying enough to not need dessert. We Negroes have been trying to get away from moon pies for the majority of our lives, attempting to take one giant step towards the windowsill. But for real, what would a brother like me even do atop a venue with such little culture, where I barely have any pull? Bring my hose pipe and try filling those pits with a liquid that'll pour into oblivion, drift unknowingly like a safety-tethered balloon, crave the blue of home, until my head explodes. All right, we're gonna go from there to the other, the one Patricia was speaking about. So, okay, the name of this one is Commentary, and this was after last summer. So so many shootings, right? So Alton Sterling, Philando Castile, Terrence Crutcher. So I'm in Oklahoma now. I'm about an hour away from Tulsa. So all this happening, Alton Sterling being in Baton Rouge, this is where I stayed before I got to Oklahoma. I was like, okay, this is just too close, and it's just time for this to stop. So I was like, okay, well let's think of how I can put this in. So this one is called Commentary, like I said, and I'll just go right into it. Okay. This distressed tea is an essential piece for the black male with its wounds scattered throughout the chest, ribs, and sleeves. It has debuted as a new take on post-racial chic, each tear deliberately placed in locations where the black male skin is most commonly pierced. Here, you'll see the salvaged hem, how it doesn't flow like blood, ends fringed like finger-length dreads. Undressed or unaddressed, the distressed tee is a must-have for any target. Its ragged look has made it one of last summer's and this fall's quintessential pieces, but is a rather old addition to the harassed trend of blackness. Here, you'll see it juxtaposed with frightened badges and a frayed pair of black skinny jeans. However, on a nice Friday evening, in or out the hood, it can also be coupled with some cuffed white chinos or brutally battered deputy blue denim to contrast crimson splatters you're sure to find on nearby windows, passenger seats, and of course, concrete. I'd sport the worn piece of norm with pleats and pleated khakis and recommend the tee to be tinted and offended, as it's a great fit for all colored men in our United States. Light as a fleeing spirit and highly perforated to allow enough oxygen to enter the struck down and strangulated. To convey mumble gasps cops seem unable to comprehend. This shirt leaks with personality and is relaxed and teamed enough that the black male cannot raise his kids, but can raise both hands in the air when approached with arms and not have to deal with the anxiety of being charged with the criminal offense of parading the streets while revealing his undergarments. Its extended tail is perfect for abrupt breakdowns, along with trap concerts, as it allows others to see that there's no weapon to draw without draws being unveiled. Personally, I love how versatile this piece is, as it's a great accessory to hoodies due to how it peeks from beneath like a blown taillight. Also to a bomber jacket, as the bottom hem skims the zipper's flap with an elongated curve like a shut lid. It's practical for this hipster and holstered fashion of shabby snazz to be matched with any misidentified black male and the mugging he failed to commit. This specific, frustratingly frazzled style, purposefully mutilated, capable of complementing any Air Jordan sneaker, is now retroactively available in many stores, stairwells, and routine stops near me. All right, I'm gonna do one more. I'm gonna do one more and get out of this thing. Because I'm hungry, I'm doing this one. So keep that in mind, because I'm ready for food, and I'm excited about Thai food. All right, so this one's called Recommendation. Okay. Try not to discover religion too readily, and Cubanos not soon enough. First time I fed on the buttered crust, Swiss cheese, sweet pickles, yellow mustard, and roasted pork delight, I might have blushed. Might have bled from beneath, rushed to the surface certain of my beliefs. In the seats next to me, a double date of daishikis, ate a soup the color of mud, and chatted in a coconut-rich accent. Just the scent of Tampa's signature sandwich makes me crave the sludge my ancestors wallowed in on, though I try not to let my desires fester. However, from time to time, I do form an itch for a woman dark as a lower deck to peck me from hoof to snout after she's chewed a few strips of thick katsu in order to soothe my dry, crackling skin with her anointed lips, but my lover won't. She quit consuming what Muhammad considers the white man's pet when her granddad, greatest grill man in Memphis, allegedly perished in his sleep. When I die, I want whatever Episcopalian pescatarian that outlived me to place my carcass into one of those huge barbecue pits. That way, If my relatives are a few skins short of casketing my corpse, they can singe me into ashes after removing the andouille sausage that always tends to scorch. If it smells good, you should try it. It's hardly my advice. Ever since my heart cath, I have sacrificed bacon grease for olive oil, but refuse to aspergillum sprinkle any cut of meat with the potassium salt my grandma struggles to use. She grunts, "It just don't taste right," between taking out her teeth and smacking her gums pink and raw between garlic tablets and drinking a cream of tar. If you're white and want some flavor as opposed to flavor, try cooking in baking fat. Vats of lard date all the way back to when the Lord became flesh and spoke Ebonics to transfer demons into a pack of hogs that hurried into a sea just to be waterlogged, which may adequately explain how the rooters made it to America in the first place, though I'll believe it when swine swim. Thinking about guinea pigs from New Guinea does kind of make sense once one quits thinking. I know some who hock spit at ham hocks, also known as the pig knuckle, because of its mucus manifesting ability, though for several years the joint served as provisions for the indentured. The agility of a legion of boar crossing a road is second only to deer, as is their response for seconds. I reckon that no Muslim or Jew would dare waste a perfectly plancha-pressed Cubano if he or she was initially unaware of the sandwich's ingredients and greediness. If one goes without pork for a while and then orders a side bowl of southern green beans, do the bits of rust-hued sin signal the tongue to wring the throat? Swing the uvula that droops like a viscid drip from the nose of the all-knowing European. All praise to the tusk-toting, husk-bred idol idols, but no appraisal. Those who've raised the slop-eating varmints Muhammad called a mix between a cat, rat, and dog know their worth and their God. Know the amount it costs to try to import hearts into estranged rib cages, to ship disease from one land to another. Thank you.
All right, hey y'all. How's everyone doing? Can you hear me all right back there? You're good? Okay. I am just so honored and privileged to be here. I'm still buzzing and beaming. When Lauren called me to tell me the news, I was actually on a job interview at Southern Illinois University at Edwardsville, where Eugene P. Redmond was a professor there. And just seeing his photos out there with Gwendolyn Brooks, I just feel like this is just a serendipitous moment. I just want to thank Furious Flower, Lauren and Karen and Joann for this incredible legacy and honor. Thank you, Patricia Smith, for seeing me and my work. Thank you, Clem. It's such a pleasure to read with you. I feel like we're kindred for life now. We're connected. And Nora Brooks Blakely, it's such an honor just to even be in your presence. And thank you for your wonderful message to all of us. And you said that Gwendolyn Brooks was a mapper, and I actually had written in my notes that she was a map for me to find and locate myself as a Black female poet. So even just being here right now, she gave me permission to stop asking permission to break and make new forms and be able to look for myself inside and outside of the canon. And also that I could, if I wanted to write a sonnet, I could write the hell out of a sonnet because she did it. Or if I wanted to deconstruct a ballad, she taught me that model. So it just feels so wonderful to be here today. So I'm gonna read a couple poems that were in the my submission for the contest. For me, one of my main themes is poetry as a means of survival, or poetry as a means of Black persistence. And one way I do that is this idea of Sankofa, this idea from Ghana of, for it's not wrong to go back for that which you have forgotten. And so that's why history, I see you back there, okay, I see. I got an amen for Sankofa. So for me, history is one of those places that I love to go back. And I've been studying a lot about Phyllis Wheatley, and if we're gonna start talking about models for Black female writers, I have to start with Phyllis Wheatley, the first female poet to publish in America. And she has this correspondence with another enslaved African named Obor Tanner. The letters from Obor do not exist, so I saw this as a lacuna that I could speak into as a poet and kind of adapt that persona And when I first read Phyllis Wheatley's poems, I was so excited. And then when I read her poems, I was like, what is going on here? Because she, at first glance, I was like, is there Stockholm Syndrome? What is she doing? But then when I started explicating her poems and explicating her life, I saw that through these texts, how she was using religious doctrine as subversion, as these tactics that I feel like are in my work today. So this is called After Water, Recovered Letter from Obor Tanner to Phyllis Wheatley in Boston. Dear sister, I am a savage. There is savage me inside, wild thick as sin, so much my soul is clabbered. But there is a change I sense inside my curdled mess. Christ hung and crucified in me, daily a saving change. The ship. Do you feel the ship pitching? Sometimes inside the skin, under your skin, chanting, as the Atlantic whispered, lulling us, fluid as hymn and seamen, and what languages we could not understand. Remember the ships that brought us over the bent world? Let us praise these wooden beasts that saved the evil beast of us. Do you remember the ship, Phyllis? Do you remember the pitching black milk like I do? Remember the bowels from the reek inside the deathly ship? There was nothing in us to recommend us to God except the bowels of divine love. Remember inky black, the starless black, blue black with moaning, smelled like salt and salvation. God's skin hammered with long nails like our breath bleeding. But we converted. We have been saved by a saving change. My heart is a true snow white snow heart of true holiness, pure as buttermilk, evangelical as buttermilk. But repentance can save our people from a land of seeming darkness. And where the divine light of revelation being cloaked is as darkness, what was darker than the bowels of that ship you were named after? Do you remember, Phyllis, how black is? The mold, our sin was the trigger, and that mist was on everything, fuzzing our damp little bodies with spores encircling the air as the emerald rust crawled and blossomed inside our lungs. It coughs and rackets the bright blood from us like a claw. No, like a smattering of applause from the balcony for the swarthy to sit upon during church. Like when we met, I was a dozen broken roses, bruised as velvet English and reaching desire for you across the pews, across the vast empty spaces where two slaves who could read and write could touch each other there as women and call it praise. Let us marvel at the love and grace that bought and brought us here. Amen. Your very humble servant and friend, Obor Tanner. Thank you. I took some of the language from the letters as well, and you can actually read the letters in the Massachusetts Historical Society. They're quite fascinating. This next poem was also in my submission packet. It's called Ode to the Only Living Object That Survived, and the epigraph in the poem is after the volcanic eruption of Mount Pelée, when it erupted on May 8th, 1902, killing over 30,000 people. I gotta take a sip for this one, y'all, hold on. So I was interested in kind of deconstructing the praise poem, and this is off of a true story. His name was Ludger Salberis, and in Martinique, everyone died, they thought, except for him. And the legend goes that he was either thrown in there for murder, thrown in there because he got in a fight, or some of them believe that he saw what was happening and thought he was crazy, and they put him in this stone cell. The volcano erupted. He took off all of his clothes, peed on them, stuffed them in the little window because the searing gas would have suffocated him, and it saved his life. Barnum and Bailey Circus at the time was a segregated show. This was the first black man in the circus, and they took him across the world, and they would recreate this event. And so I was really interested in kind of course, as a poet, diving into this scene and seeing what that would look like. And you can actually, if you go online, you can actually see the ad for Ludger Salberis. Ode to the only living object that survived. Praise Mount Pelée, the eruption. Praise pyroclastic flow. Praise Ludger Salberis and his stone cell that saved him from the volcano. Praise the murder. which placed him inside the cleft of a mountain, alone with only a tiny window to the apocalyptic world. Praise his quick wit, with urine-soaked clothes sucking smoke. Praise dreadful burns on his back like frozen black lava. Praise lava roiling in the rocky veins of the earth like blood rivers, crazy and scorching. Praise Barnum and Bailey Circus for displaying this man around the world. Praise the billboard, only living object that survived in the silent city of death. Praise the duplicate of his prison for the show. Praise the most marvelous man in the world, the billing read and read. Praise how to sell a thing, a burned object. Praise circus marketing. Keep praising the circus for their beautiful freaks of our broken nature. Praise the circus, I say. Praise the circus for the first black man in the show. Praise the object, something visible or tangible. 2, focus. 3, goal. Praise the noun affected by the verb and the keloids, agate and smooth on his skin. 7, source of light rays. Praise the punching verb and the noun and the man and the man and the man who survived the end of his world. All his people are gone. Praise to be saved. For what? This, me, making him object again, objectified ode, again becoming a thing glossy with advertising. I can see him so clearly, looking back at me through bars, then becoming the world before me like light. Praise his testimony, praise the witness and his blistered onyx back, cracked coal, black tephra. Praise pyroclast, meaning fire plus broken in places. Praise a man without a city, his people scorched and suffocated from insidious gas or the searing belch of reckless lava. Praise him on display, a lit and exotic tableau. Praise the stage name. Praise the engine of his story, rattled again and again like a fiction, a lie that dazzles into a safer display, a safer spectacle of otherness. Praise Cain cursed with magical crust, armored melatonin. Praise his real name, August. Behold him stepping into his nightly prison. Praise him, his own costume inside another costume, himself leathered skin, himself praise enough to endure and keep enduring the eyeballs. Praise production, fake bars closing, fake smoke misting and rising and misting. Now cue the drums, mimicking volcano shivers, the drums undulating the hem of the tent, quaking the little atmosphere. Praise the barker booming about the wonder, the white wonder of it all. Praise the people aghast at his survival and scarred skin, all diamante and post-lava. I want to go there now, because again, I can see him so clearly. I want to watch the show as he watches me, watch him to look through him till he becomes the start of me, a freakish place of praise, like in the zoo with Rilke's panther pacing and passing what seemed like 1,000 bars. The man has become his cage, has become a mountain within a mountain about to burst with liquid fire. Now he, the month of August, with all its tortured, trapped heat, praise the miraculous object. Like a doll, I want to pluck him from the billowing tent with my God finger, snuff out the tent with my God fist. I'm gonna read a couple of poems from Equilibrium. And these were inspired by Gwendolyn Brooks. This one's called Hair Relaxer, an Origin Story, and it starts with an epigraph from Gwendolyn Brooks, which reads, "Never to look a hot comb in the teeth." Now, if you are not Black, I think we all have rituals, beauty rituals that involve pain. Can I get an amen? Okay. And if you don't know about Relaxer, there's several of us here, you can just afterwards, we'll tell you about it. You came into this world creamy, full of alkali and burn, like a baby born of hard labor, ruler of all things straight and acceptable. You made kinky your nemesis, fought genetic bend of curls, cold lotions brushstroke the afro on our heads inside of our hearts to bloom. Wait for it. Scratch of matchsticks ignited on the scalp. Wait for it. Sting of water pressure on the fleshy bottoms of new scabs. I was 7 when it first happened to me. Told Mama I wanted my hair to swing like the white girls in my school. I cried at the shampoo bowl, thought pain would make me beautiful, learned to suck it up, keep it in, tucked and folded like origami. Blow dryer wiped those tears away. Salon girl said, "Ooh, we got it so straight this time." Singe on the teeth of a hot comb forged from European gods of smooth metal. Swipe from root to unruly tip. Rise of smoke from the kindling of burnt black hair. Rise of smoke smogging the salons and kitchens from coarse-haired daughters and mothers. Rise of smoke from the altar of our vanity. All the wavy hair I broke like the back of a slave into submission, into black yarn I knew inside me grew to find my way out of this chemical labyrinth. Out of wanting boys to glide their wanting hands through my straight hair, out of my own minotaur of self-hatred, but I slayed the beast of pretty, took my hair inch by inch like the yarn of Theseus to find my way back to my little self, back to my baby pictures with the fro pick in my hair, to the bounce, the spring in every coil. Rain, I am not afraid of you. Let the water take me back to curls. Let the water be gospel, brown hydrangea, my grandmother's silver cotton ball, my auntie's cornrows, my mother's hands kneading almond oil in my scalp like coating a cast iron pan to shiny black patina. I came into this world greasy, full of thick psalms. Let the water take me back. Thank you. So I really like ekphrastic poems, and this one is after Carrie Mae Weems, an African-American female visual artist. And she has this series called Roaming, where she's wearing this long black dress, and she's literally roaming across Rome. And one of my favorite poems is Archaic Torso of Apollo by Rilke. And at the end of that poem, he says, "For here there is no place that does not see you. You must change your life." And I thought, what would be that picture for me where I had to change my life? And it was this picture. Bear witness. Before I knew how to fill my onyx body with slick measures, dip every curve in my skin with dark sway, I needed a picture. Before me stood a long black dress I called woman. You stand opaque with your back to me, a statue of witness, the door of yes, I can return to the monument of your silhouette to find my longest muscle. We both stare down the ocean to stillness. Oh, Carrie, what are you trying to tell me here? I've been standing by water my whole damn life trying to get saved. I have one final poem. It's been such a pleasure to be here with you. And just on the theme of poetry as a means of survival, I wanted to share a quote from Terrence Hayes, who started the Golden Shovel poem from Gwendolyn Brooks. And at the Cave Canem kind of honors at the last year's National Book Awards, he says, "Isn't it such a futuristic idea that the descendants of slaves become poets?" Soil Horizon, and it begins with an epigraph from Natasha Trethewey. The ghost of history lies down beside me, rolls over, pins me beneath a heavy arm. My husband's mother wanted to take the family portrait at Carton Plantation. I was the only person she called to ask if it was okay. She said we could redeem the land with our picture. My brown skin acrostic to the row of their white. She said, "Can't we just let the past be the past?" I was silent, my cell phone glowing warm against my cheek. I was driving, red light, then go. She said it's practically in my backyard and that her boys played on buckled fields of green graves growing up. There are so many fun places to shoot. Oh, and that big magnolia is in bloom. Fragrant, milky petals and waxy greens by the red brick house, and the large front porch with rocking chairs tipping back and forth over the purpled stains of Confederate blood. I said it was fine as long as we weren't by the slave cabins. And she laughed, and I laughed, which is to say I wasn't joking at all. She kept saying redeem as if to say we'll make it acceptable, restore and atone, buy it back, pay it off. We'll redeem it, she said again, her voice swelling like she was singing and as if we really could. How do I stand on the dead and smile? I carry so many black souls in my skin. Sometimes I swear it vibrates like a tuning fork when struck. A staff officer wrote, "The wounded and hundreds were brought to the house during the battle and all the night after, and when the noble old house could hold no more, the yard was appropriated until the wounded and dead filled that." The plantation was named after cairns, prophetic stones marking a mass grave, still speaking, how the body leaves its mark on wood, plum dark and greasy, from the shot stippled and amputated. My tongue was cut off when she asked me again, "Are you sure it's okay?" I was waiting at the red light. My cell phone burned from the hot battery in my hand. Even the dark layers of dirt must testify how the Battle of Franklin turned the farmstead to a field hospital, thousands of casualties during the war for states' rights, the brochure said. And now it's sold out for summer weddings, with mint juleps and sweating silver cups, cannon bursts from weekend reenactments, and photo shoots for graduation, pregnant couples, and my new family. It's raining. The photographer is snapping and directing us toward the daffodils in the garden, the shutter opening and closing like a tiny guillotine, clicking. I'm staring at the black eye, clutching my smile, light drizzle turning my pressed hair slowly back to curls, the water percolating, weathering its way down to the bright green topsoil, fertile with the past, organic and wholly wet as Dixie myth, mixing with iron, clay, aluminum, and revision, romancing the dirt and undead, turning the silt in the subsoil, steeping further down, deep, deep in the deep, dark pocket of earth, to the parent material, layers of large, unbroken rocks, down to the antebellum base, the bedrock of Southern amnesia. Can we just let the past be the past, she said, her voice swelling like she was singing and as if we really could. In the portrait, my husband is holding my hand, his hand that dug for bullets as a boy. Thank you.
Patricia Smith.
Yeah. Poetry is over. They've done it. They're finished. It's done. All right. Thank you. That was beautiful. That's absolutely, you two are amazing. Makes me believe in myself as a judge. All right. I'm going to read one poem from Jimmy Savannah because I was singing the Temptations this morning, and it was, please return your love to me, girl, forgive me for, they're always begging, So I got all my ideas about life and love and romance by whatever Motown song was out at the time, which explains quite a lot. Anyway, this is actually was written after, when thinking about that same song, called A Colored Girl Will Slice You If You Talk Wrong About Motown. Colored girl's laughing. The men and women who coupled, causing us, first arrived confounded. Surrounded by teetering towers of no, not now, and you should have known better, they cowered and built little boxes of northern home, crammed themselves inside, feasted on the familiar of fat skin and the unskimmed, made gods of doors. When we came, the same insistent, bloody, and questioned we would have been down south, they clutched us, plumped us on government cereal drenched in carnation, slathered our hair, faces, our fat wiggling arms and legs with Vaseline. We shined like the new things we were. The city squared its teeth, smiled oil, smelled the sour each hour left at the corner of our mouths. Our parents threw darts at the day. They romanced shut factories, waged hot battle with skittering roaches and vermin, lumbered after hunches. Their newborn children grew like streetlights. We grew like insurance payments. We grew like resentment. And since no tall sweet gum thrived to offer its shouldered shade, no front porch lesson spun wide to craft our wrong or righteous, our parents loosed us into the crumble, into the glass, into the hips of a new city. They trusted exploded summer hydrants, scarlet licorice whips, and crumbling rocks of government cheese to conjure a sort of joy, trusted that joy to school us in the woeful limits of jukeboxes and moonwash. Freshly dunked in church water, slapped away from double negatives and country ways, we were orphans of the North Star, dutifully sacrificed, our young bodies arranged on sharp slabs of boulevard. We learned what we needed, not from our parents and their rumored South, but from the gospel seeping through the sad gap in Mary Wells' grin. Smoky, slow sketch pictures of our husbands, their future skins flooded with white light, their voices all remorse and atmospheric coo. Little Stevie squeezed his eyes shut on the soul notes, replacing his dark with ours. Diana was the bone our mamas coveted, the flow of slipped silver they knew was buried deep beneath their rollicking heft. Every lyric, growled or sweet from perfect brown throats, was instruction. Sit pert, pout, and seamed silk, then watch him beg. Every spun line was consolation. You're such a good girl. If he has not arrived, he will. Every wall of horn, every slick choreographed swivel threaded us with the rhythm of the mildly wild. We slept with transistor radios, worked the two little silver knobs, one tiny earbud blocking out the roar of our parents' tardy attempts to retrieve us. Instead, we snuggled with attempts, lined up 5 pretty men across, and damned if they didn't begin every one of their songs with the same word, girl. Thank you. 20 minutes, right? Okay. Oh, y'all sleek now. You're like, whatever, I'm done. Sure, I will do that. The ones that didn't just hear you say that, I will do that. Okay. I live in New Jersey. I've learned to say that straight out, looking ahead, not tipping my head, not looking down, not embarrassed, not ashamed. New Jersey, home of Chris Christie. Don't play. I remember cutting out a news item and just moving around on my desk. I think we all do that. We think, I'm going to write about this someday, and it goes here and it goes there, then it's in front of your face, and it moves back here, and you put it in your wallet, and you know. And then there was another news item, and it made me pull out the first one. And that's where this poem came from. And it actually was going to be part of the title segment of the book, but it didn't work out that way. But we are witnesses, and so, I don't want to say anything. In February 2010, 21-year-old student Samshidin Abdur Rahim abducted his 3-month-old daughter, Zara. He placed her in a knapsack, drove to a bridge on the Garden State Parkway in New Jersey, and threw her out of the passenger side window of his car. She drowned in the Raritan River, more than 100 feet below. In November 2011, also in New Jersey, Arthur Morgan III picked up his 2-year-old daughter, Tiara, for a trip to the movies. Later, Tiara was found face down in a frigid stream beneath a park overpass, strapped into a car seat which had been weighed down with a car jack. It was unclear whether she was thrown from the overpass or carried into the park and placed in the water. The 5 stages of drowning. 1, surprise. There is no drunk like the drunk of milk sleep. A drizzled white floods the body and weighs down everywhere we think we knew about awake. Zara's new clockwork staggers with it, while Daddy, grizzled and wild-eyed, lobs her like trash over the rusting rail. Inside the sack, the wriggling child cannot translate fly, plummet, descend. She doesn't realize the hard questions she poses for pigeons, or how, dull and stupid with dairy, she is all the fall the sky can language. Babies accept what they are given. They never question the morning's flood of sun, a kitchen's blaring stink, or the wide hovering faces of fathers. After a swollen breeze pries her eyes open in the few seconds it takes for the fevered discarding of a daughter, baby doesn't ask the sun, needling light into the sack to offer rule or direction. Zara Malani Lynn Abdur Rahim, little not bird, has been jettisoned, ditched, unloaded. Her snared arms can find no rhyme for wing. The river's glittering trash smacks her blunt, but not before her tiny O fails its role as mouth, not before language breaks its promise to wait for her. If Zara can conjure no word for word, can find no way to bellow, "Up, Daddy, up," as she tumbles, stuffed inside a down, 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 reeking so oddly of him, how would she voice panic born of the day's quick fist? Slapped awake, she breathes in the close cloth and feels the little ruckus of a new heart. The startled river opens, then closes over her the way a new mother would. Involuntary breath holding. Imagine filling your whole body with everything you are and then holding it there. Imagine the smallness of that body. You are nothing but the easy of blue, red, and green, food you have smashed with your fingers, and the stumbling possibilities of walk. Imagine not knowing that the ability to contain all of you in tiny balloon cheeks decides whether you continue. Imagine not knowing the word continue. Quick wisp of fish nip warily at those fat cheeks, fall into irreparable love, and decide to make a new religion of you. Hallelujah, you are now a religion, a church of slither and slide, while Daddy roars his glee into noontime traffic, not thinking about you, but thinking about your mother and screeching, oh, she got another man now, huh? Well, fuck that hoe. I got something for her ass. Bet this gonna fix her bitch ass now. And you, Tiara, are the fix for her ass now. You are the fix for your mama's ass now. You are the pawn in a payback that cannot be unplayed. And your daddy, now miles away from your slow plunging, does a lousy parking job and stumbles into a smoky, red-walled gin mill populated by other men without daughters. Hoisting a fat gold shot, he toasts his one accomplishment, the uncomplicated removal of a complication, while your cheeks deflate and the door to your next minute closes. You were alive when the stream first lapped its way round you, and the d sound comes so sweet to the mouth of a baby who wants it. You laughed, Daddy, until the giddy fish re-examined their worship of you. You coughed, Daddy, until Daddy was nothing but sound. Then you spat into the mud until you couldn't. The fickle fish, back in love, kissed the place where your breath had been. Hypoxic convulsions. Daddy is the architect of a baby girl's roll and rock. He teaches her to manage slink, schools her in a woman's wet engine. If Zara lives, which she most definitely will not, someone else's daddy will teach her all the one way there is not to get lured into a sack, how to lay quietly in the wrong skirt while muscles argue, how one well-timed convulsion usually clears the dance floor. Like good drowning, good dancing hits the backside like an annoyance that must be Watusi'd loose. But how to respond to a sudden wet that's out to rearrange? Of course, drums are injected, and Tiara, all thrash and snapdragon, shimmies for her giggle back. Baby is the battery black women build their bodies around until they're old enough to be officially romanced by yet another revision of Jesus. But right now, they're too little to feel the full hand of the Jesus voice, the caress of proverb and psalm. They're flirting with that big daddy for all their little worth. Look at that little bitty jerk and boogaloo, that pop swirling of hips they can't find, that runaway rim shot in unfinished chest. They're rearing back, opening wide, rearing back, opening wide, rearing back. Both throats are opening and slamming shut with river. Cue the skanky music. Brackish water snags the rhythm, controls their arms and ankles, gleefully involves their necks. It says, baby, save the last dance for me. Unconsciousness. The river, though. Sluggish and cagey and habitually a bitch, she has decided not to accept Zara, this vexation in her mouth. She is dazzled by choke, flopped blossoms, and the occasional seduced diver, but repulsed by all frailties of skin. The river is seldom in a mood to have her swerve scrutinized or interrupted. Now, what is this damn hindrance keeling over in my current? Prying the sack wide with gush, she prods the puckered contents, is not entertained. Intending to add the ugly pudge to her baubles, she finds that she cannot rouse it, is not entertained. The little blue knot fish thing is so flaccid, so unfun, all snazzed up in its sopping petal pink, the eyes slit and rolling, nappy crown trapping living things that desperately need to breathe. The hide skids and burps. The river's most devoted feeders, so jazzed at first, have already had a go at it. And the thing won't give the river its props, won't beg for refuge in the water's arms, it won't say anything. The river flicks a bored blue finger at it, then flicks it away. She is so over this drama. Hell, the end of anything is only a kick to watch once. Clinical death. The final stage in the drowning process is death. Clinical death occurs when both breathing and circulation stop. The victim is in cardiac arrest. The heart stops pumping blood. The vital organs are no longer receiving oxygen-rich blood. The lack of oxygen causes the skin to turn blue. There are 52 shades of blue, or 1,000,052, depending upon which river you ask. 3, cornflower. 17, cerulean. 21, blunt force. 28, turquoise. 34, navy. 37, fix for her bitch ass now. 41, sky. 47, goodbye, but the way the river says it. Bye, all dismissal and shade. 52, goodbye, but the way a daddy says it. Over his shoulder, thrilling the done of the deed, already mad at the traffic. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. We're so happy to have you. We want to let you know that we have a reception. It's a party. So there's snacks, and we have a wonderful exhibit of Gwendolyn Brooks photographs in the, what do you call that area? The Prism Gallery, thank you. Close to the drum by the stairwell, so pass, look at the photos, mix with our writers. They will sign your books. They will answer your questions. We're doing that in lieu of a formal Q&A. So please eat, drink, be merry, hang out, get your books signed. Thank you so much for coming. Let's give them a round of applause.